Anytime an investment is made in a new product, we often want to know the break-even level of sales. Typically, number of units. How many units would we have to sell to at least break even? And that's kind of what we think about, like, could we possibly get that amount? And it's usually a function of sales price, the amount we sell, the costs, and the sales price. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. We're going to open up a new chat, or we could just write start a new chat, and then we're on our way. And oftentimes I like to start with a question and just ask, hey, this is what I'd like to do. How do I do that? Or what do you need from me? And so we're going to ask it to perform a break-even analysis and analyze changes in profit as sales, costs, and prices change. Now you're going to see in this way it's similar to cost, volume, profit analysis, but in this case we're really interested in the break-even point. How many break-even units? How many units will we have to sell to at least break even? And so we can kind of see what that looks like. All right, so it kind of gives us a little bit of detail of what this might look like. And we're going to provide a base case, like, hey, this is what we think most likely to happen. And so the base case is units sold, 3,000 units, unit sales price of $25, variable cost of 18, and total fixed costs of 12. And we just want to know, what's the profit for that base scenario that might be provided there. So we're going to go ahead and stick those straight into the formula. Get the contribution margin per unit. That's the price less the variable cost. So if every unit sold, it looks like we get $7 toward fixed costs or towards profit. And it looks like in this case the profit would be 9,000. So we see that, and we're just going to go ahead and ask directly. We started with 3,000 units, and it looks like we'd still make a profit. So we're probably expecting it would be less than 3,000 units to break even. So let's go ahead and ask it directly. How many units need to be sold to break even in this case? And so it says, hey, we would not need to sell 3,000. We need to sell 17, 14, 29. Below that would be a loss. Above that would be a profit. And so we're able to see that included there. Now we're going to do a little bit of a sensitivity analysis. And we're going to say, hey, let's allow these to vary. Sales price, instead of being, let's see, our assumption was $25. And we're going to allow that to vary. And the unit variable cost was, looks like $18. So this is going to vary between 6 and 12. And we're going to ask it to determine how many units need to be sold at each level. And so we're going to take a look at that and see what that might look like. Okay, so it's going to provide a table looking at the sales price and give us a grid of what that might look like. It's going to go through the formulas again and say, hey, we're going to look at these various dimensions, and it's going to go back to the $25 sales price as the base case. And we can kind of see what this looks like here. And we could copy the whole table and bring it over, but you can kind of see what that might look like there. We're going to go ahead and ask it to provide the sensitivity analysis in a heat map, so a visualization to see how that might vary for each of these levels that we're assuming. So we can see what the heat map looks like. Here it's given the definition, and this says how many units we'd need. For example, if the variable costs were 12 and the sales price were 20, we'd have to sell 1,500. But if the variable cost is 6 and the sales price is 30, we'd only need to sell 500, and we can see some various gradations there. So we're able to see that. Now let's look and see one more change here. And so essentially we're saying, hey, what if we change just the amount of fixed costs in here and see what that might look like? What would be the break-even level? So we can kind of go one by one and just change one of the parameters. And here it says, okay, here we're back at the base case. Now we've got our profit, and it looks like we'd have to sell 28, almost 28.58 to break even. So we can see what that looks like. So to finish this off, we'd like to provide a visualization and go ahead and output it to a file. And so let's go ahead and do that. We're saying specifically what it is. Often the problem here is that we don't know what the assumptions are, and so we may want to include more details that this assumes sales price between X and X or fixed cost between at this level, and really just take a look at that in that way. Okay, so we're able to see that and be able to download that, and that will just go to our download folder. Oftentimes I ask it to display the prompts based and put them in a Word file, but here I'm asking it to display the prompts, and then I copy and paste it in there. I often like to put this and pair it with our visualization so that I can see exactly what assumptions I was making when this was done, or I could recreate it pretty easily if I like. So here are the various ones. This completes this lab.